Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning to this, the Wednesday show of Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. Welcome to it. If you're watching the simulcast on Facebook or on YouTube, then do me a favor. Hit that like button, please. And of course, share the stream. Help me reach a bigger audience. You can do that in particular by joining that audience on YouTube. Subscribe, please, to the YouTube channel. Join the over 41,000 of you now who are fans of the show and help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. With that being said, a reminder to you that you can support the show financially. Anything between 50 to 100 Rand a month, 75 Rand about is the average that we do. And how do you do that? Well, then find us on our website at bigdaddyliberty.com. There, of course, you can find a payment method that suits you. Now, with that jibber jabber out the way, let's get straight into the news. Okay, we begin here this morning with perhaps what has been topical news for the last couple of days. Of course, that's the cabinet reshuffle that was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa, the absolutely useless individual that he is. But nonetheless, now you can probably tell from my tone. Guys, I wasn't expecting anything out of this cabinet reshuffle. I wasn't holding out any hope for it. So please, you'll forgive my tone if it isn't as enthusiastic as the mainstream media.
You're forgiven.
Because again, I've said this once and I've said it before, nothing changes in this country for as long as the ANC and really broadly speaking, leftists are in power. Any change or reshuffle is merely cosmetic. It's replacing a turd for a turd sandwich. Either way, neither of which you want. Nonetheless, excuse my pessimism in that regard. Let me speak about this particular reshuffle because effectively what we saw here is a closer reflection of the politics and not a closer reflection of what you need as the public. What do I mean by that? The closer reflection of the politics is leading, of course, from the ANC's recent elective conference, which saw some changes being rung within the ANC. Those changes now, because of the political patronage, had to be reflected in government. So, for example, where there was a removal of David Mabuza as ANC president, or pardon me, deputy president, in favor of the newly elected Paul Mashatile, of course there had to be a removal of David Mabuza as deputy president of the country in order to have deputy president Paul Mashatile. And that's exactly who we saw come into the fray. Now, I'm not going to go through all the changes here and there. I'm just going to tell you who the losers were and maybe speak about why others were not losers on this issue. Now, even as I say this, I'm going to put this Daily Maverick graphic on the screen and you'll see exactly who is in and out. The ones in green, circled in green, of course, are the new inclusions. Yep, as you can see there, a very long list of names of people who made it in. And of course, all of those individuals you're seeing on that Daily Maverick list are individuals who were voted in and now have political clout in the ANC. So of course, Cyril Ramaphosa had to reward them with cabinet positions and literally make up, in some cases, cabinet positions that further bloat the administration. And on the issue of bloating the administration, please understand this. The introduction of two new ministers is effectively about roughly 8 million Rand each in terms of the overall cost of hiring a minister. This is a very bloated cabinet, and in particular the presidency now is a very bloated institution. Union buildings must barely have any space for anybody to walk around, especially with all those egos and all that private security and those blue light brigades that are making their way in and out of there. What do I mean by this? Have a look at this graph that I'm putting up on screen now. So you see that breakdown of what I'm talking about when I say a new minister effectively costs about 8 million Rand. And that's excluding, of course, the security cost that the SAPs or South African Police Service have to provide by way of, protectors and bodyguards. Very expensive. Now, as I mentioned, 3 ministers found themselves on the losing end of this cabinet reshuffle, including 1 deputy minister. These were individuals who politically stood against Cyril Ramaphosa by and large. I'm going to read from this News 24 piece that detailed those as follows. Now, 3 ministers were fired and 2 ministries were introduced as Cyril President Cyril Ramaphosa announced significant changes to his cabinet after 22 years of leading 8 government departments. Lindiwe Sisulu's tenure as cabinet member came to an end on Monday, along with ministers Nati Mtetwa and Maite Nkowana Shabane. Also booted from the cabinet was Public Enterprises Deputy Minister Uphumulo Maswele, who campaigned extensively for Ramaphosa's competitor, that's former Health Minister Zweli Mkhize, leading up to the ANC conference in December. Yes, very sad, very sad. What will they do now with all their millions that they've made in government? Those poor ministers. Again, I'm being very nasty here because I don't care about these individuals. I really do despise politicians generally. I always say this, hashtag politicians are trash for a reason. They are not servants of you. They are tyrants. They are people who make your life much more difficult. And the fact that there was a musical chairs being played, and in that entire musical chairs, only the worst of the worst kept winning, tells you everything you need to know about whether these people care about you or not. And again, I did say at the beginning of the segment that I will question if those were the losers in this cabinet. Why are the following people still in cabinet? Why is Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, aka Buffalo Bill,
it rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again,
still in cabinet? This is a woman who was the COGTA minister, that's Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Yes, that same woman who put you in lockdown and destroyed your livelihoods, staying in cabinet. But oh, here's the kicker. This time, this 74-year-old geriatric woman is now the Minister of Women, People, Disabilities and Youth. Really? 75-year-old Buffalo Bill is the Minister of Young People? Okay, that makes sense. And of course, other characters who should have been shuffled out but stayed in cabinet are the likes of Ubhekicele. Yes, that's right, the asshat, who is still police minister. Now, we spoke on a last Vuka Nazo where there was talks, of course, in the corridors that he'd be shifted into the intelligence services. That has become the Minister of State Security. State security as an ambit has still remained within the president. So we got that wrong, or at least the sources got that wrong. But nonetheless, he's still in cabinet. Why? Why is a man who's presided over such a sharp rise in crime in this country, a man who basically does not respect law enforcement, even though he is the political head of the South African Police Service, why is he still in government? How is that a reflection, as Ramaphosa stated, keeping progress, or making progress rather, and maintaining stability? Stability of what? Failure? That's seemingly exactly what we're seeing in this cabinet. The other issue becomes, why are some ministers, one of whom is accused of as serious a crime as rape and kidnapping, why is that deputy minister still in cabinet? The point is, this entire thing has been a useless exercise. You're being dribbled, where there is just merely a reshuffling of the deck chairs, and if anything, like a petty thief or a petty con man in the street shuffling those cups. You know those games where they put something in a cup and they sort of shuffle them around, and you are being dribbled. Cyril Ramaphosa is that very con man, and you are the one being dribbled. This reshuffle means nothing to you and your family, and instead is only here to reward the political elites. All right, I take you now to Durban, or at least Mhlanga on the north of Durban, where a horror accident, a 46-car pileup, that must be a record of sorts, that saw, of course, a truck barreling through those 46 vehicle plus, crashing into them and causing as many as 36 injuries, one of which was a serious injury involving a pregnant woman who had to be airlifted to the nearby hospital. Thank God, Baruch Hashem, that no one was actually killed in this accident, which of course, as I mentioned, happened in Mhlanga on the M41 in what was Monday's morning traffic, of course. Can you imagine the horror? That truck, as I mentioned, barreling into 46 vehicles, causing a massive pileup carnage. It looked like one of those superhero movies where, you know, they sort of barge into town with an epic fight happens in some town and cars are tossed around. I mean, it literally looked like that. And it almost became umhlanga, let there be carnage type, movie headline. But it wasn't a movie. These were real people involved in this. And as I mentioned, at least about 35 said to have been injured in this. Now, even as I'm saying this, it brings up that conversation we had about trucks on our roads. There are previous episodes of Vuka Nazo where we've had this conversation with the sort of horrific accidents in KZN and other parts of the country, especially in KZN, involving trucks. These 18-wheel lorries at times that sort of barrel past us at speeds faster than some sedans at times. It's crazy the types of accidents we're seeing that are often caused by these trucks, the amount of carnage that they leave involved in this. Let me quickly read from this News 24 piece, which of course cited some of the paramedics who were on the scene. Now, Necare 911's Sean Herbst said 5 of those who were seriously injured and the pregnant woman were in a critical condition. Reports allege that a truck driver lost control while traveling down the road when he plowed into moaning traffic. He said many of the injured were transported to hospital before the arrival of emergency services. End of quote. Again, at the heart of it is that serious conversation we need to have about the number of trucks on our roads and the danger that they pose to everyday commuters. The truck in question in this accident eventually plowed through the traffic and landed on its side, having barreled through those vehicles there. Again, this broadly opens up the conversation about the need to reinvigorate the rail network in this country, a rail network that was bequeathed to us by the colonial era, the apartheid era, and which was destroyed by this current ANC regime. And why was it destroyed? Because there was an incentive to artificially create demand for trucking in this country, because trucking can be used to enrich people. Yes, that's right. Trucking can be used to enrich often people who are politically connected. That is effectively what we're seeing play out here, and that policy people are paying for with their lives. There is a strong need in this country to move a big proportion of our freight back onto rail. That, of course, will improve greatly the amount of road safety issues in this country. There are some roads on this country that have become a death gauntlet because of the number of trucks on them. The N3 in particular between Durban and Johannesburg is one such road. If we were to reinvigorate and bring back rail in this country, which of course I know ANC politicians would not want to do because it would mean their cash cow of trucking and the often BEE deals that are launched via trucking would quickly dissipate. But nonetheless, there is a desperate need now to go back to rail. All right, that's it for this episode of Vuka Nazo. Some really annoying stories and some really sad ones, like that Mhlanga road crash. I hope those who are injured, of course, make a speedy recovery. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like button on the way out, and please, guys, share the stream. It really does help grow my audience. And if you're watching on YouTube in particular, subscribe to the channel. A reminder that we have a website. Find us at BigDaddyLiberty.com. There, of course, you can catch up with all things Big Daddy Liberty, including some campaigns that we'll be launching soon. That being said, I'll see you tomorrow, bright and early, for the Thursday edition of Vuka Nazo.